What is up, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of Cold Weather Bats, where we are going to be breaking down the regional semifinals and look ahead, make some predictions, some thoughts into this weekend's regional finals and quarterfinals that will take place immediately after. Joined as always by it's going to stick at this point, Mr. CWB, Brandon Justice. Brandon, a lot of chalk, as we were just talking about in some of these semifinals, seemingly across the board here.
Yeah, it wasn't too crazy of a Wednesday, Thursday. Obviously, some games got pushed back due to weather. Some good games, but nothing too crazy in terms of the upsets or anything along those lines. I think everyone we thought would win for the most part got through so far. So Saturday shaping up to certainly be a crazy one, though.
Yeah, we had a few upsets back in districts, but you look to some of these games that we're going to get into here, and yeah, there's some pretty big matchups. I mean,
Mhm.
there's really across all divisions. You look through all of these divisions, and there's some of these regions they're loaded across the board here.
Yeah, and definitely people will bring up the whole seeding thing and the structure of the tournament and the whether or not we should get to a 3-game series at some point at some stage of these playoffs like most states do, things of that nature. And that's a bigger picture conversation we can have after the season. As of right
Yep.
now, we just got to call it for what it is. It's a 1-game season, and you either end up on the good side of that or the wrong side of that when it comes to it. And there's certainly a lot of polarizing, I guess, features of the Michigan high school baseball tournament, but it is what it is. We know it like the back of our hand at this point, having dealt with it as long as we have. So we'll see what happens come Saturday. So regional Saturday is always a fun one. Now, Darren and I agreed a couple of weeks ago or last week that the regional final followed by the state quarterfinal, all in the same field for both teams for both games, and ending with a third one for a quarterfinal and a berth to the Final Four is kind of redundant because I feel like winning it really takes away from winning a regional final. It's pretty much like removed the importance because
Yeah, I
you do
mean,
that and it's like awesome. That's a trophy. Like, don't get me wrong. I think tangibly speaking, yes, there's something coming back to the school and to the community,
right.
but you walk out losers that day if you don't win the quarterfinal and go to the Final Four. So, um, I'm just not a big fan of that. I wish they would do it differently. But that's everything
It's
else is just bigger picture for things we can discuss in the off season in terms of structure and all of that. But that's my one gripe.
it's definitely something that you can go win and get a trophy and then be told, "Hey, you're actually playing in 20 minutes."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
something.
crazy.
So,
Like, you can't even
uh,
dogpile for the regional final, which is a shame because you should.
yeah, you should.
I mean, that's a big deal for 99% of schools, I would say. Some schools are, we've done that the last 3 years, we need to win one now type of deal, but, like, not many of those out there.
Right. Right. So we are going to get into every single division, lay out some of our thoughts here. Before we get into that, be sure if you're not already to follow us on all of our social medias. Check out our website. We have some pretty cool things coming out starting as soon as really Monday, June 9th. So keep a lookout for that. And as always, we have all of our really good written content over on our Patreon. Be sure to take a look there. So before we get started here, we'll dive right into our Division 4 games. Uh, we'll lay them out here a little bit, break them down, and give some thoughts to that. So we'll start with our Division 4. One thing we can also talk about here, Brandon, as we go through this, there's a lot of these schools that when we did our original state picks back a couple months ago now at this point, a lot of these logos are these were ones that we were picking back then. So a lot of
Yeah.
these schools are holding strong.
Yeah, absolutely. In D4, some of the schools we highlighted going into the year were, obviously St. Patrick, Mount Pleasant, Sacred Heart. I think Mount Pleasant, Sacred Heart.
Yep.
And then Plymouth Christian, Cardinal Mooney. Those are all schools we really took a pretty close look at in the early goings. So here in D4, certainly all still there.
All right. So let's see. How do we want to do this? You want to go with who we are looking to get out of each region here?
Yeah. I'll start up top with this would be region 27 and 28. So Maple City, Glen Lake, and Muskegon Catholic Central. And then on the other side, you've got St. Patrick and Sacred Heart. And we're really looking at, and Muskegon CC and Glen Lake could both come out on top here. Both had pretty relatively easy paths, especially in their Wednesday midweek game. They both run rule the team. Um, but St. Patrick is, the team that's kind of, I think, outside of our rankings, consensusly ranked number one. They're 30-1 overall, so they've obviously had a great year. But Sacred Heart at 31-6 is the school that we've kind of been partial to in D4 this year as the favorite, I think,
Yep.
and for good reason. They were really experienced last year. They play in a tough district, and relative to D4. And so really this region comes down to who wins that matchup, I think. Glen Lake and Muskegon CC both capable of beating them. And again, it is a one game setting each time. And you can, they get the early game. So Glen Lake and CC will get the break here. But the back-to-back will go to the winner of St. Patrick and Sacred Heart, which is a total toss-up and is really hard to predict. I'll stick with what I've thought was my second best team in Division 4, which, going into the year, I thought, okay, it's hard to count out Beale City. I know they lost some people, but, Sacred Heart is still my pick to win D4. It was my pick going into the tournament, going into it, not so much in the early goings of the season, but going into the tournament, I liked Sacred Heart. St. Patrick, great record, great season. I'll take Sacred Heart to edge them out, and I'll take them to come out of this quarterfinal as well and take a trip to the Final Four.
Big thing about this one too is they all performed extremely well in their regional semifinals. All of them winning quite handedly between all four of those games. Those four teams gave up a total of 1 run. So
Yeah.
some good pitching and defense there.
Yeah, and they should have plenty of arms available, right? I mean, that's the big thing you got to look at in these
Yep.
games. So,
They should all be ready to go.
all right, that takes us down to Region 25 and 26. We will start with Norway and Harbor Springs, Harbor Light Christian, which I'll just call Harbor Light Christian. They went 8 innings, winning 5-2 over Pickford. Light Christian did, and then Norway, for some reason, only played 6 innings, but they won 6-3 over Painesdale Jeffers. And Norway's kind of been the team to like here on this side of the bracket to make it to the Final Four. But in the other game, you got Gaylord St. Mary and East Jordan, and I really like East Jordan to come out of this side. They got a really nice frontline ace in Corbin Russell. He's going to Michigan State. He got selected to the All-Star game. He's kind of like the big fish here when it comes to this region. He also hits the ball really well as well. Believe he went yard in their district final or regional semi or something of that in nature. I just remember seeing it. So yeah, East Jordan was one of my 3 favorite teams in D4 going into the year, and I'm going to have to stick with them. Although I do like Norway as well. But I will stick with my pick with East Jordan going over Gaylord St. Mary, Norway going over Harbor Light Christian, and then East Jordan beating Norway in that quarterfinal and getting a berth to the final. Also, East Jordan, all-state, all-logo team. We might have to come up with one of those, and they would certainly be on it because their logo is amazing.
Their logo is so cool. Now, we definitely need to do a postseason submit your logo to be ranked
Yeah,
show because
100%.
there were
An
so
all-logo
many good
team.
ones. A lot of bad ones that looked like some children drew it, but some really good ones. And East Jordan's definitely the top of the list with a lot of resemblance to the New Jersey Devils logo. So, all right, I'll take us down to region 31 and 32.
Yeah, 31-32. This one's pretty interesting. You got Unionville, Sebawang, I think is I'm going to call
Sebawang.
it Sebawang. All right, we're going to call it Unionville. They beat a
There we
pretty
go.
good Bay City All Saints team. I thought All Saints would definitely make it to this game. So good on Unionville. They do get a tough Cardinal Mooney team that's played undoubtedly one of the hardest schedules in Division 4. The only team who might have played a better schedule than Cardinal Mooney is Plymouth Christian. They play a good Royal Oak Shrine team. This one is a good region. Mooney, PCA, and Shrine are all good. Unionville as well as a good team. But I mean, I'm keeping an eye on Mooney, PCA, and Shrine. I think any of those 3 teams can come out of it. If Unionville ends up coming out and making me look stupid, then good on them. I'll take Mooney. in that first game at the 10 o'clock. And then I'm thinking PCA goes back to back here and ends up in the Final Four. We played at PCA. Wyandotte played at PCA to start the year. Really impressed. Their lineup was really, really solid. They could stick it 1 through 6 or 7, really. And then even after that, there was still talent. It wasn't like a huge fall off. Their 1 to 4 is really good. They got this like left-handed hitter and like the 3 or 4 hole who really, beat us up. And they have some frontline pitching as well that'll really help them, especially with the D4, relativity of it all. But I like PCA. My 2 favorites going into the tournament, Sacred Heart, PCA. I got to stick with PCA here. So I'll take them to come out of this region over Mooney in the quarterfinal.
Agree completely there. No issues with any of those ones from this side of things. So, all right, our last one here for D4, we got regional 29 and 30.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I would have to say this is probably the one where the least amount of people are picking them to win it just because you don't have any of those like hot names going into the year. Summerfield's always a really competitive team. They had a decent year at 19-10. You got a team under 500 in Vermontville, Maple Valley, which is an amazing name for a school, but they did go 11-14 in the regular season. Up top, a good Decatur team that finished 23-8, and then a 21-12 St. Joseph, Michigan Lutheran team. I like Decatur to come out of this region. Just seemed to be the best team on paper. Admittedly, not a whole lot of dope on who does what on these 4 rosters, but based on their body of work, Decatur seems to be the team to pick here. I'll take them to make it to the Final Four.
I will say for Vermontville, Maple Valley, you guys, I'd have to look up exactly what the logo or the mascot was off the top of my head, but with you guys way out there, where are we at? We're just really west of Lansing. Gotta say, a little bit of a failure here with the potential mascots that you guys could have went with or a logo. I mean, it fits perfect. We gotta have something with syrup here, but
Absolutely.
I digress.
It's gotta happen.
All right. Well, we'll go D4. We'll go down right into. We'll go D3.
Cool.
Go right into D3. A lot of good matchups here as well. Let me get that pulled up on the screen here.
We can start with regional final 17 and 18. You've got Negaunee going up against Traverse City St. Francis in final 17. These 2 teams, I think, are the 2 to beat in this side of the bracket. Negaunee came out of a decent division, or I'm sorry, decent district, 24-5 overall. St. Francis, kind of the same ordeal, but 27-8 with a little bit of a tougher schedule. On the bottom, you've got a 24-11 EVART team up top there, and decent year record-wise. Won a lot of close games. They've won all 3 of their playoff games by 1 run. And then Pinconning, who was 26-12, played a pretty decent schedule, though. Played some tough teams along the way in terms of Division 4. They won a lot of close games as well. 2 runs or less for all their wins in the playoffs, besides their most recent one over Ross Common in the regional semi. Hard to pick who's going to come out of this side of the bracket. This is kind of similar to the last one that we talked about in D4, where it's probably the least picked to win it inside this bracket of Division 3's Final Four. But, gun to head, I got to take somebody, right? So I will go with Traverse City, St. Francis, or I'm sorry, not Traverse City. Negaunee is the one I've been liking in this side. They are 24-5 overall. Solid schedule, beat some good teams. Shout out to the UP. We'll take Negaunee.
Okay. Let's get right on to this regional 21 and 22, because this is what I feel like could be the best one for Division 3 here. A lot of good teams here.
Yeah, there's obviously everyone's going to look at Liggett, but the game up top, Jackson Lumen Christie and Onstead. Onstead beat a good Grass Lake team that I really thought was going to make it through in Division 3. They didn't, but they got to face a 29-7 Jackson Lumen Christie team. Onstead, definitely a good season at 25-13 overall. Either one of those teams can win that one. And then in the bottom, you've got a Liggett team that is 21-11, played the toughest schedule by far in this group for obvious reasons, having playing in the Catholic League. They've also had a pretty tough trail here. They've had to beat a really good E-course team and then a top 30 Edison team, right? And won a tough one 3-2. First game obviously was pretty easy, playing Pershing and winning 20-0, but they get Ida, and Ida has put together a solid 16-9 season. They play a lot of those like real Southeast teams, like your Monroe Jeffersons and Onstead, and or I'm sorry, Onstead, Hillsdale, Airport, Adrian, those types of schools. And it's tough to say who's going to win this one because you want to just go right to Liggett, but look out for Lumen Christie. That's just my thoughts. But I will take Liggett all the same. I will take Liggett. I think they have the most talent of this group. I think they have the best arms of this group. I think they're able to outlast the challenge, and they'll get right back to the Final Four.
Yeah, no issues with any of those. I think Lumen Christie could pose a very tough game for Liggett, where it really could be a toss-up. I mean, what you've seen with a lot of these scores, especially from these regional semifinals, is the better team typically came out on top, but there weren't as many blowouts as you might have thought for some of these games. So let's go right on into the next one, Regional 23 and 24. A lot of good teams here as well.
Yeah, Marine City and Millington get us going at 10 o'clock. Marine City is 23-10. Millington comes in 25-10. Some common opponents, common areas here. I think they're both well prepared for each other. No one side or the other favored there. Lansing Catholic and Saginaw Valley Lutheran are in the bottom half here. You got a 19-6 Lansing Catholic team going up against a 19-8 Saginaw Valley Lutheran team. Hard to call it one way or the other. Lansing Catholic has kind of rolled their way into it. They've played the best baseball up until this point, but really hard to bet against Marine City. I think that they've had a pretty tough road to get here and beaten some good teams along the way. If you look at their playoff path, they had to play a tough Algonac team who we really anticipated making it to here, and they had in years past with Josh Kasner at the top of the rotation. He's at Michigan now. They take the loss, and then they beat a good Lutheran Northwest team 6-2, who really has a lot of perennial success. So I think Marine City stays hot and gets their way into the Final Four here.
All right, that'll take us down to our last regional, or two regionals here for Division 3, Regional 19 and 20.
Yeah, so first off, you've got a Muskegon Western Michigan Christian team that took out Muskegon Northern in their district, who I thought was going to win that division, or I'm sorry, that district. And then you've also got Watervliet, who's probably the favorite here. They've won it before. They've had a really solid season at 22-6. A lot of the opponents they've beaten that they'll potentially see in these playoffs, they've been able to win far more than they've come close to losing. So I really like them to come out. And then also you got Olivet and Bridgman in the game below. Olivet 26-6, a really solid showing so far this year. Pretty much rolled in the district or in the playoffs, aside from their first game winning 6-5 over Climax Scots. And then you got Bridgman, a team that's really tough to pick against, 21-10 overall. Won a lot of nice games this year, but they did lose to Watervliet 2-0 and beat them 4-3. Could we get a rubber match in the final in this side of the bracket with Bridgman and Watervliet? I think we do, and I think I like Watervliet to come out on top in that one. But don't be surprised because Bridgman's probably just as good. So one of the two, but I'm going to go with Watervliet.
Definitely don't be surprised, especially with this weekend. A lot of things can happen and probably will happen. So let's take us now into Division 2. This first one we will break down for the regional finals, regional final 13 and 14. Another one that we talked about earlier where pitching and defense seemingly is going to be a big factor. Again, a lot of opponents that only put up 0 or 1 run for these regional semifinals. So these ones should be pretty good come Saturday.
Yeah, this is a really, really solid region. It's hard to pick who comes out of it. I've got one team in mind, and it's not because they're in my league, but Mason and Williamston in Regional 13 at 10 a.m. Two teams that have had a lot of success this year. It's been I think it's Mason's like best year they've had. They're at nearly 30 wins, 29-7. And then Williamston, who's 31-6 and really hard to pick against. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of people picking Williamston to go the distance in this tournament, and that's entirely possible. But I thought Mason was my underdog going into it. So I'm going to take Mason because I don't want to go straight chalk. I'm going to take Mason. I think people are favoring Williamston, but I think there's something about this Mason team. I've been following along with them. They've gotten hot at the right time. I'll take them to win it. They're coming off a pretty easy win as opposed to Williamston's 1-0 win. I'm curious on what happened with the pitching there. Seems like Mason should have more available. I will take them. And then, of course, we've got Trenton and Chelsea. Chelsea, didn't have a great season. The record is not true on MHSAA. It says they're 13-9. Either way, they've had 10-plus losses this year, which is interesting. But again, it's all about getting hot at the right time. They beat a really good Garden City team in the opener, 6-0. That was with Armstrong on the mound. Beat Pinckney 1-0. Ran through Father Gabriel Richard 11-2 in the district final, and then beat Adrian in the regional semi, a good Adrian team, 7-0. So that's a team to look for. But Trenton, man, they've got the arms, man. They've got the arms. They're going to be able to throw Joel Mater, the ace. They'll be able to throw him at Chelsea, I would imagine, unless there's something I don't know. They got their game in on Wednesday, and they won 8-1 comfortably over Riverview. Don't think Mater had to go with pitch count, so they should have their ace for that game. He's a left-handed Wayne State commit. He's like 86, 88. They're going to have a hard time hitting him. I really like it to be Trenton in the final. Mason Williamson, more of a toss-up. I do like Trenton over Chelsea. And then if Mason gets to Trenton, I like Trenton to win the game. I think it's a close one, but I do like Trenton to win the game. They still have a solid number 2 in Ashton Rooney, and a couple of other good players in that rotation, on top of a defense that's going to play soundly. They're going to bunt and play small ball and play the short game really well. Their plan is usually to score early and hold on for as long as they can. Now, in a perfect world, just keep scoring, but I think that their coaches are comfortable scoring 3 or 4 and knowing they can defend it to under that. So,
quick note: those Chelsea Bulldogs, they were 24-11 this year.
They had a great year then. 13-9 on MHSAA because they had 13-9. They did not include a lot of their wins on their record.
It did not. So they might be sneaking up on maybe Trenton. We'll see. So
we'll see.
All right, we'll go down.
They had ran hot at the right time so far.
Exactly. We'll go down into regional final 9 and 10. This one's gonna be a good one here, guys.
Yeah, no doubt. One team really stands out, but we'll start at the top. Petoskey and Standish Sterling. Petoskey is a 29-5 team. I get that the record, or it doesn't really reflect a super strong schedule, but you can kind of say the same about the perceived favorite in this side of the bracket, which is 34-6, Standish Sterling, who has played a very similar schedule. They had to beat Clare 1-0 in the district opener, which was a huge shock. They ended up, running through the next 2 teams, but that's a tough one. Petoskey and Standish Sterling will be a battle. I will take Standish Sterling. I think they have arguably the best rotation in Division II. It's going to be really hard to beat their pitching when it comes to tournament baseball. Below that, Fruitport and Frankenmuth. Really, really like Fruitport. 28-5 overall. Made a trip to the Super 25 at one point this season. Standish Sterling kind of stayed true in there. This is a tough one. I'll take Fruitport over Frankenmuth. I like the front line of the rotation, but don't look out for Frankenmuth, man. 22-13 overall. Former home of Drew Titsworth. They've had a tough road there. Beat John Glenn 6-2 and Garber 2-1, and probably the second best district in D2, maybe third if you want to count Liggett and Edison in there. Trenton, Huron, and Flat Rock definitely had the best one. But then they had to also beat Garber in the final and then go beat Swan Valley in the regional semi 6-3. So I think they've had a tough path. They've earned it. They could keep earning it here because Fruitport would be a nice one to beat. I just think the front line ace for Fruitport will win that one. And then you get to Standish Sterling and Fruitport. Really tough one to predict. I will take, again, I just like their depth in the rotation a lot, and that's really what's most important come tournament time. So I will take Standish Sterling.
I know this is something we could have done, but I noticed from looking at this, obviously, this regional and quarterfinal being hosted in Petoskey. A quick look up where Petoskey is in essence hosting this. The other 3 teams are all coming from at a minimum an hour and 55 minutes away. Where I believe it was Fruitport is pushing 3 hours. Same with Frankenmuth. So lots of travel to get up there for their games tomorrow. Not sure if they for maybe Standish Sterling if they're going up a night before, but uh, going to be a early morning for a lot of those folks coming from those areas heading up to Petoskey. Maybe even go to some wineries after, but yeah, they're gonna have a long day ahead.
Yeah, and that's definitely something worth noting because travel it's not quantity. You can't really quantify it, but it's got an impact for sure.
Definitely does. All right, let's go on down to regional 11 and 12.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I thought Niles was going to get through in the lower side and make things interesting. They didn't. They lost 2-1 to Three Rivers. But at the top, you've got the big dog, Forest Hills Eastern, 28-1. They have not lost a game since. Gosh, when did they lose?
It was like the
March
end of
28th.
March.
Yeah, March 28th. So they've won
They're actually
ah
38 and 1.
38-1. Okay. Thanks, MHSAA schedule. That's probably a lot of the records I've read off wrong today because I went off the MHSAA schedule instead of GC. So that's on me. That's that's a lack of journalistic integrity at that point. But they lost to Sparta March 28th. So they're 38 and okay, so they've won 37 games in a row. Really hard to pick against that. Unity Christian, we were told by Coach Slaughter of Zeal and East, shout out, that they were a team to look out for come playoff time. They went on a crazy losing streak in the middle of the year where they lost like 8 in a row and like 9 of 10 in a row, which is crazy. I don't know what happened because they have been nothing but hot since, including a pretty convincing trip to the regional. They've shut out twice. They shut out Holland in the district semi, and they shut out Grand Rapids Christian in the last round. Which is a good team. Forest Hills Eastern is impossible to pick against, though. So I'll take them. And then Three Rivers and Gold Lake. I like Gold Lake a lot. I think Three Rivers got through Niles, but I think it ends here because I do like Gold Lake. And I think Gold Lake kind of pushes FHE a little bit, but ultimately, I think Forest Hills Eastern is able to get to the Final Four.
Also, another logo critique. Three Rivers. You guys had one job to do. Three Rivers, and you guys pick a Wildcat. I mean,
It's crazy.
again, we'll leave it there. Unity Christian, though, love your guys' logo. Fantastic
Mm-hmm.
with the U and the C. I love it. So, all right, takes us down to another region with a classic logo in Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Yeah, a logo we're used to seeing when it comes tournament time, right? And
Always there.
they're just they stick out like a sore thumb in this division right now next to FHE. It's really those two and everybody else. And so it's hard to pick against both of those teams. They play St. Clair Shores, Lakeshore. I think, St. Clair Shores, Lakeshore had to beat Harper Woods to get in here. They've respect to them. They've had a pretty easy path to get to this point. Again, with all due respect. So I think Orchard Lake kind of moves on with relative ease in that game. And then Clio and Yale should be interesting. Yale beat Lutheran North, who was, I was well aware of how good their season was. I was let know every week by Griff Green and Swan. So they went 24-6, but ultimately lost to Yale. Cleo's had a good season, a team that we've kept our eye on in Division Two. But ultimately, I think that Yale stays hot. One of those two teams will win. It's a total toss-up. Either way, though, St. Mary's, if they don't win this side of the bracket, that's the biggest surprise in 5+ years since I've been doing this. Otherwise, it's St. Mary's 100%. There's just too much talent, guys. I mean, they got like 5 arms over 85, probably, maybe more. That's probably understating it. And these other teams, bless their hearts, they might not have more than 1 or 2. So it's just the truth. You can't
Not
say
sure
that
to
about every
play.
D2 team, but this side of
No,
the
and
bracket is tough.
yeah, it's going to be a gauntlet here, and I can't say I'm sure there's other names that have been butchered, but I can't let you butcher Clio with it's Clio.
It's Clio.
Clio.
That's been told to me before. And if you're like a vet of the show, then like the fact that I didn't do that yet with the school was pretty
And I'm
remarkable.
sure there's
More,
others that we might have mispronounced, and I will own that. And
yeah,
if we did, let us know. But
more than
Clio's
happy
one
to
that
fix that.
I know for sure. And watch, I'm probably gonna get told actually no, it is Clio.
Yeah, right,
Uh,
right.
all right, so this will take us into Division One And Brandon, this one's going to be fun. This is going to be fun all day on Saturday, tracking all of these games. There are going to be great games going as quickly as 10 a.m. across the board here.
Yeah, I mean, Division One has been a blast this year. It's been awesome. So many teams can come on top here, and there's really no way to predict it. How about a team that is playing in something called the Diamond Classic in the middle of their playoff run? So, really interesting little detail as we get kicked off here with
That is something.
25-11 Okemos. They won their first 2 games of playoffs. They won 13-1 over Lansing Everett and then beat Grand Ledge. Bit of an upset over Grand Ledge in the district final, 6-4. And then they played in this tournament called the Diamond Classic, lost 9-8. And then 3 days later showed up and played. That was a Monday after the Saturday district. And then showed up Thursday to play Battle Creek Lakeview and won 7-3. And will now play Heartland in the regional final. I do like Heartland. I think they're rolling right now. We've highlighted them on the show. I think the brand of baseball they play is really hard to beat. It's kind of like organized chaos in a way. A lot of high energy. Guys play together, kind of feed off each other. Hard to beat this time
Starting
of the
with their
year.
coach.
Yeah, I like Heartland. And then Northville and West Bloomfield. I was writing about this earlier. This could really go either way. Northville's kind of been the team that we've counted out because they had won it last year but lost their coach and a lot of their roster. But they keep finding ways to win. But West Bloomfield just has those high-end arms that nobody else, or not nobody, I would say of the 4 teams left, they probably have in this side of the bracket. I mean, they have the best arms in this side. So I'll take West Bloomfield over Northville. But when it comes to West Bloomfield and Heartland, man, I kind of like Heartland's lineup more, but the rotation for West Bloomfield's pretty undeniable. The question is, when Slade Moore going to throw? Has he thrown?
So
Does he have rests?
he threw 70 pitches on Wednesday.
So he can throw.
Yep.
So he can throw, and he'll probably throw the first one. They'll still have Fountain. There's plenty of other guys.
29. He threw 29 pitches, so he got his little bullpen in a way. Stayed fresh.
And they've still got, Pecor, right? The younger Pecor still there, and they got.
He was hurt. I haven't checked. I'd probably text his dad here and see, but I know he was recovering from an injury, arm injury. So I know he was building up to throw.
Well, either way,
but they got arms.
But once you get past those top 2, it's not as daunting. I really like Heartland. I'm going to take West Bloomfield because I like to side with arms. And this is a very senior-laden class for West Bloomfield, guys who have played a lot of playoff baseball and put in competitive districts and come up short. There's a lot of fight in those guys. The same can be said about Heartland, though. I mean, that's not going to be the difference necessarily. I will give it to West Bloomfield, but I really like Heartland here too. I think it's going to be one of the most entertaining games. Even Northville and West Bloomfield will be super entertaining. So I'll take West Bloomfield.
All right, so we go from that gauntlet to this one, regional 5 and 6. A lot of good schools here as well.
Yeah, start off the top, Woodhaven and Livonia Franklin. Franklin's literally hovered in that 20 to 25 spot all year for us. They just don't play. Like, the schedule hasn't been as convincing enough. Like a lot, and you can't really be a victim of your conference not being as strong in certain years. Now, Churchill was really good this year. A couple others in that area were solid, but Woodhaven's been awesome in the second half of the year. I think they're at 30-8 overall now. Just a really, really solid season after everything that they went through to be able to still be at this stage. They don't have a single guy who really sits over 80 for the most part. Maybe some guys who sit fringe 79, 81, but nothing past that. But the offense and defense it's elite, man. It's elite. Like the middle cleans it up really well. They play really fast in the outfield, really sound. It's all really instinctful. The catcher's really good and handles the plate really well. And then offensively, 1 through 5, it's a gauntlet, man. It's a really big gauntlet. They got a bat to ball walker gap guy in the leadoff. They've got nasty lefties 2, 4, 5. It's hard to beat. Franklin's good. They beat Edsel 4-0. Edsel threw the ace, Ian Manis, who shut down Allen Park, which enabled them to get there. And so Franklin will certainly pitch it, but they had to use it Woodhaven ran through Monroe in 5 innings, 10-0. I've got a hard time not taking Woodhaven based on that detail, especially under, given what they have in their lineup and their defense and how sure that's been for them. Should be a great game, though, but I've got Woodhaven. And then in the bottom, we've got U of D and South. U of D coming off a drubbing of Grove, 17-2. Meanwhile, not the same at all for South, who went in 8 innings and beat Western 3-0. This will be a great game. U of D's probably got fresher arms. They've definitely got fresher legs, but South, I just think they're too talented. And we'll talk more about the matchup side for them in a second when we talk about Woodhaven. But I do think that their talent kind of overcomes U of D in this one. This has been a common matchup at this round in recent years in the playoffs, and that seems to be the case each time they meet up. So I'll take South. So that leaves us at Woodhaven versus Grosse Pointe South. Historic matchup it's become in the playoffs. They obviously played in the state finals in 2018, but they also played an insane game in this exact setting at Wayne State in 2023. Woodhaven was down, I want to say 6-0 or 7-0. They were down 6 or 7 runs in the 6th inning with like 1 out or something like that. And they were able to come back and inevitably win the game, beat South, go to the state final and lose to Novi, who didn't have their ace. And so that meant that a kid named Uli Fernsler had to throw, which is kind of funny to all look back on now. But yeah, Woodhaven, this is kind of like Grosse Pointe South is really senior laden, and they have a lot of guys who have been there for a long time. They're all really good. They play really sound defense. They play good short game. They pitch it well. All their pitchers are developed to throw strikes and let their defense work. They literally do the same things Woodhaven do. They've just got more experience. I'm going to take South because of that. But this Woodhaven team is probably exactly what this South team is right now, but maybe even probably better in 2 years. Now, Woodhaven's best players are sophomores. Outside of Jace Davis, who is a senior, middle of the order guy, shortstop, great player, probably their MVP this year. I think he hit like 500. But their fire, their star power, they're like Cam Thorning and like they are sophomores. This is a young team. There's really only a couple of seniors making an impact that I can count on my hand. So they're young. I'll take South because of that extra experience. But this is going to, in my opinion, I think this is going to be like an 8-7, 9-8 type of final. I think both teams don't have those elite blow up by you arms, but they both have pitch to contact type of pitchers. And I think these teams will hit that well because they train against it so often all year long, right? And, I think they square up well. I think it's like Pepsi Max versus Pepsi in a way, if that makes sense, like a comparison. So I think South is the max this time around, though.
All right, and now let's go into the much anticipated, really the region of death. That is Regional 7. We got 2 left out of it. You got Brother Rice and Dakota, and then Regional 8, you got Davison and Lake Orion. Brandon, we could talk on this one for an episode and a half for what is coming here, but we'll see if we can get it all down here in a minute or two.
I'll quickly say I think Lake Orion should cruise over Davison. Now that maybe not to the extent we're expecting, but Davison coming off extra innings, Lake Orion more talented. I don't know if Lake Orion goes to their ace right away, but if they don't and they're able to get by, could make for an interesting final for them to play a little spoiler. Because on the other side of Brother Rice and Dakota, the 10 a.m. game, I mean, that's as big as it gets for a regional final. There are few games you can remember off the top of your head over the last 10 years that hasn't happened in this round like this. This is as big as I do not remember a regional final being this crazy in a long time.
No.
This is your unequivocal number 1 team this year in Dakota versus unequivocally the most talented team in the state who's caught fire at the exact right time, went on to win the Catholic League's Division I title, which is a huge feat nowadays, especially with the inclusion of the Ohio schools on top of the talented pool they have in there and the resurgence of teams within that division like De La Salle, like U of D. This is a tough one, man. Dakota and Brother Rice match up so well. You're either going to have Cole Duhame, the Virginia left-hander for Rice, or Blake Illich, the Ole Miss right-hander who throws 93 for Rice, or you're going to get on the other side for Dakota, Luke DeMasi, or it's Luke, right? Or is it Will? Which one is it? There's two of them.
Luke.
It's Luke, right? Yeah, I was right. Of course I was right. So
Now,
Luke
now I'm
Tomasi,
second
who's
guessing
been
it though. It's Luke.
yeah, who's
It's
been
Luke.
as shut down as it gets this year for any team. I know that they played on Wednesday. I would assume his rest has been met. But we'll see, man. So many arms could get it. I know that the one thing to look at here is, yes, Dakota handled De La Salle 1-5-1, but Rice only played 6 innings, won 15-3, probably got in comfortable enough to where they didn't have to stress anybody too much. I doubt Dakota really did either at a 5-1 win where they were up early too and created that deficit. But this is just going to be a heavyweight matchup. It's impossible to predict where it goes. I'm going to stick with Dakota. I do like Dakota's lineup more. And I do think this year they've been the best team across 30, 40 games it's been now. Rice, still the most talented. Could very well win this game. But I think it's like a 4-3 final. I'll take Dakota. That leaves us with Dakota Lake Orion. Still going to take Dakota. Dakota was my state championship pick to start the year. I am not wavering from that.
So for Dakota, for Tomasi, he did not throw on Wednesday. He last threw May 31st against Chippewa Valley, 7 innings, no earned, and 8 strikeouts and 71 pitches. So he is more than rested if he is healthy. So shout out to Coach Pluff for keeping his guys fresh. He had other guys throwing on Wednesday against De La Salle, and it obviously paid off. And they got all their horses ready to go. So this will take
We
us
got plenty of depth in that
into
rotation too.
lots of it. Take us into really another fun one here. You can look at this one in a lot of different ways as well. You have Bay City Western traveling all the way to Cornerstone for this game against Grand Rapids, Kenowa Hills on one side, and Matawan and Hudsonville on the other.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with Bay City Western on the top. Kenowa Hills, good season. Bay City Western, just really hard to pick against in that stage. And then where things get really interesting is Matawan and Hudsonville, because you're going to see likely Caden Jominy for Matawan throwing against Hudsonville, who's got a flurry of arms. I don't know if any of them are quite as good as Jominy, but they're all really good. Bunch of like GV type commits that are going to give you a ton of firepower on the mound with a ton of experience with a lot of innings thrown. They're really senior laden as well. Man, that's a tough game. Matawan, Hudsonville could go either way because of what's on the mound. If they can get Hudsonville, if they can get Jominy out of the game, that certainly changes things. I will take Hudsonville, but man, Matawan is good, and they've been here before and gotten through it many times over these last few years. That leaves us with Bay City Western and Hudsonville, and I like Hudsonville to play spoiler. Been thinking about this all year. Whoever came out of that really, really tough, we do not talk about how tough Hudsonville, Jenison, Zeeland East, that district is really, 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 really tough. And whoever came out of it, I thought could make that run and play spoiler to Bay City Western, who has been the perceived favorite all year long, along with Dakota, and set up for them to meet in this Final Four because of how this quarterfinal would work out. But man, I think Hudsonville, they got 20 dudes who can play baseball at any time. Really, they do. And not to say that BCW doesn't. I just think Hudsonville's lineup gets a little scrappier in this one, finds a way to win. This has like 4-3, 5-4 type of sounds to it. I do like Hudsonville. But again, we're at the stage where things are very hard to predict. So,
All right. And in typical fashion, we thought this would be a 15 to 20-minute breakdown, and here we are.
yeah, right. Before 8.
But if you have tuned in all the way through this, first off, thank you for sticking with us here. Like we've hit on this entire episode, there is going to be a lot of good baseball starting tomorrow and rolling all the way through next week as well, with those semifinals kicking off on the 12th. So be sure to stay tuned for all of the results. We will be having results posted on our social medias as they come in tomorrow. So be sure to follow that. And we'll see if some of these games that Brandon is giving thoughts on, if he's correct, maybe we'll do a ratio or a percentage and see how you hit on these. I think think it could be good. We'll see how it comes
We'll
out.
see.
But yeah, any last thoughts from you here?
Buckle up. Division One's going to be an absolute. I think it's going to be
Gauntlet.
crazy. I don't know. Like, first of all, there's no chalk.
No.
There's just no chalk. Anything can happen in a lot of these games. There's more chalk in D3, D4, I think, but or D2 even too. But there's no chalk here in D1. I think it's going to be crazy. A few different regions I'm looking at, and obviously the Dakota and Rice one is interesting, but even the Hudsonville and Bay City Western one, the FHE, and I forget there's somebody else in that FHE region that's interesting, and then lastly the Trenton and Chelsea one should be interesting. FHE and Grass Lake, yeah, I think that'll be interesting too. So we'll see.
All right, and all we're now missing is Griffin Green to yell to like and subscribe and to share and to tell a friend to tell a friend. So if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and find us on every single platform out there. This will be available everywhere. So with that said, best of luck to all of the teams, and catch us Monday evening for a recap roundtable. You'll find it on every single platform on X, Instagram, YouTube, all the places. So we will talk to everyone on Monday, and good luck to all the teams playing tomorrow.
Good luck.